go for it.
Okay. So the first step was to drill out the top hats and then put a chamfer on both sides just to deburr it. It's a 15/16 drill, big drill. You could probably use a step drill, but it is kind of thick, so you're going to need a step drill with, you know, good lands on them. The big 15/16 drill wasn't cheap. And I bought a chamfer tool, goes in there, and knocks all the edges off of it. Okay, so once you get all your shock hats done, oh, the other thing too is we're going to keep the Fat Cat isolators on the top. And the trick for these to get them to stay in is you don't use the Gorilla Glue or whatever it is. If you use windshield sealant, the polyurethane, that works great. They stick in, they stick good. So while you got everything apart, clean everything up, glue them in properly so these things aren't flopping all over the place. The kits are delivered as a retrofit kit to fit on the top of a Fat Cat kit, which has this in it. So we're reusing this out of the Fat Cat kit. They tell me when they do a complete kit, they're gonna make their own new one to replace this. So, front and rear shocks are different how they assemble to the stack up of all the parts. So on the rear shock, or a front shock rather, the long one, first goes on the thicker of the two. There's a thin one and a thick one. You put the thick one on, and if you look at the directions, it shows you thin one, thick one. Then you put on the drill-in spacer. Then you assemble the shock hats, and it's a tight fit on there with a 15/16. I mean, it is pretty size on. So that gland nut goes in there. Then you have a flat washer you put on, and you have 3 bevel washers, and per the instructions they're pointing down. 1, 2, 3. Then you got your conical monoball. Then the cap goes on. Actually, just because I am who I am, they don't call for it, but I'm going to put a little dab of Loctite on there. Conical ball, nut, screw all that together. And then this goes over to the vise. And there's 2 flats on either side. And they say torque to 50 pounds. .5, bada bing. Out of the vise. And this slides over the shock rod. Small little washer. Oh, see, I forgot something already. We got to put on the collar. I marked them before they came off. Came them at the exact same ride height. I haven't adjusted these at all from where the car was set up. Put a little bit of grease on. There's some O-rings in here to keep things from flopping around. It's locking, the collar's locking on that edge right there. And it's got 2 O-rings here just so the collar isn't rattling around. And for some reason that does not slide on as easy as the other ones did. Flip that over. No. That one fit on fine. they just need a little bit of tapping to get that on. Yep. That was it. Whoop. And being careful not to screw up the O-rings when I do that. A pretty tight fit on there. And an O-ring. Those O-rings want to push out. Yep, O-ring pushed out again. A little bit of O-ring pinch there. There we go. It takes a little bit of finesse to get those on. Dropping parts. Front is the short, thick spring. And we put on the top hat. And there's a little tiny washer that goes on before the nut. And I'll put a little bit of Loctite on. And just took a little impact. Don't go nuts on it. So that's a front. Yep. Gonna put these little spacers in the monoball on the bottom. There's a little O-ring on them. And they slide in, pretty tight fit. That assembly is ready to go on the car. I'll do a rear. So I'm gonna put on the collar first. Grease. Make sure the up part of the sleeve is pointing up on the collars. That one went in a lot easier. Didn't pitch the O-ring. That bottom's out. The thin bump rubber, and these bump rubbers are stiff. I mean, I can't even hardly compress them. So when they say that you don't want to be on the bump stops, it's going to be really, really abrupt when you hit them. And on the rears, there's a big flat washer. It's actually a shim, internal shim. You put that on. The fronts don't get that if they get the Durlin bushing. And then we'll assemble the hat. So sometimes these are pretty dang tight. See if I can knock it in place. That seems to be down all the way. Flat washer, if I can pick it up. Spring washers, 3 of them. Conical point down. The monoball. A little bit of Loctite on the threads. Twist it on by hand over the vise. .4, 50.6. And the assembly goes onto the shock shaft. The little washer. And then the nut. Doesn't look like I have a lot of thread there. I thought I had more thread on the other one. So, yep, that's all in there where it should be. And I didn't put on the spring. Spring, long one, small diameter for the rear. Now we'll put the shock head on. That's on and tight. Now, in reference to their setups, they gave those dimensions. Now, grab a tape measure. So they said the front 10 1/8. So these were taken off. I didn't adjust these collars, just set them on here from how the car was set up. So from there to the center line, I'm at about 10 1/4 on the front. On the other front, I was pretty close to that as well, compared to the setup. The rear, they recommend 6 1/8, and this is where we see the variance. So on this side, we're almost exactly at 6 1/8, but on this side, we're almost at 6 5/8 to the center line. Yeah, a little bit more, a little bit over a fat 6 5/8. That's because to get your ride height flat and your corner balance all out, your rears are going to be quite a bit different because of driver weight on one side of the car. So this was the left rear. It's up higher to counteract for the driver weight. So the numbers that they gave, I mean, if it's the first time you're doing it, it gets them on the car and it's going to get you reasonably close. And then you're going to have to fine tune from there. We'll find out tomorrow on the setup where ride height comes in, exactly how we had it off the Bilsteins compared over to the Penskes. There are two sheets. One does say front shock, one does say rear shock. You see the difference with the one little washer in the thin bump rubber, and then on the front with the Duralin and the thick. So, and then they give you a nice stack up. These are the same front to rear, doesn't matter. Actually, well, it says front shock on both of them, but front to rear, that stack up is the same. So that's it. They're ready to go on the car. Rock on.